Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today it's going to be another trying to fix video, another video where I buy something faulty off eBay and I do my best to fix it with limited skills and limited knowledge. So in here we should have, if I'm correct, a Xbox One S. So that's the white one, the slim version, and from memory it's stuck in a low resolution. So I've never taken one of these apart before. I have taken a couple of the original Xbox Ones apart, with one I was successful with and one I wasn't successful with, but I've never taken one of these apart before. Now personally I do prefer the Xbox One S a lot more than the original Xbox, purely because you haven't got the big external power supply. It's a lot smaller. Personally, I do love the look of it. I think it's a lovely looking console, and I like the colour combination of the white and the black. So let me show you what I paid for this. I'm actually really looking forward to doing this one because the fault is an unusual one. Now, it wasn't cheap, unfortunately. Like most gaming consoles on eBay, they're so expensive. This was up for £90 with £6 delivery. And basically there was also a make an offer, and I think I made an offer at £80, he didn't accept it. I think I did an offer for £82, he didn't accept it. Went to £84, £85, still didn't accept it. And on eBay you only get 3 goes before you you have to pay to buy it now. So annoyingly he didn't even take £5 off it, which is a bit of a shame. But the reason I got this one is because I thought it would make a good video, and I haven't taken apart one of these before, so I'm quite looking forward to it. So it says here, Microsoft Xbox One S 500GB console, white, faulty, stuck in 640p, and loads of pictures, and it says here on the write-up, I'm not sure what is wrong with this. It seems to be stuck in 420p times 640p resolution. I've tried changing it but just get a black screen. Everything else is fully functional, has been restored to factory settings. It is probably an easy fix. Well, you know, it's not going to be, is it? Possibly just my TV settings. I've tried it on 2 HD TVs, however, and it also says I've noticed it doesn't show up at all in some TVs. So then obviously it's been tried on more than more than just a couple of TVs. Console only, no cables or accessories. So it's really expensive, isn't it? £96, there's no power cable with it. Okay, they're dirt cheap, but also there's no controller with it as well. So you can see in an instance like this, unless I'm going to get it working by doing nothing, there's absolutely no money to be made. But I wanted to do this one for the video because I thought it would be an interesting one for YouTube to see the resolution, to see why it's stuck in a low resolution. I have the same problem on one of my Nintendo Switches that doesn't dock, but on the actual console itself it basically says 480p or automatic. There's no other resolution. So I'm quite intrigued to find out what's wrong with this. Is it going to be software related? Is it just a setting that he's changed, which would be nice? Or I'm thinking it's probably going to be some chip somewhere that's causing it. So obviously no money's going to be made on this. Well, I don't do this for the money anyway. I do it for the YouTube videos. But remember that even if I do have to spend money on it, personally, I make money on the views of these videos. So that's why I can kind of do this without stressing out too much. If you're doing this as a business, personally, I don't think anybody would be spending £96 on a faulty Xbox One S with no controller and no power cable, because it's just not worth it when you look at the price of them new. Haven't looked them up recently, but from memory they're around, I think they're about £200 or something. I think they actually charge a bit more now because they're all 1TB models, but this is a 500GB one, so I'm pretty sure that they were as low as £180, but I kind of forget. But anyway, let me get the TV set up and stuff, get the power cable, get a controller, and then let's see what this problem is. Right, okay, so I've got it set up now. I've used the power cable from my Xbox One X, it's exactly the same. I've used the HDMI cable from my Xbox One X. I know they're both working, so there's no reason they shouldn't work here. I'm also going to use the Xbox One X controller, but obviously Xbox One S, or X, all the controllers will work on this unit here. So I'm just going to put it to the correct HDMI and see what happens. Now, in the listing there it did say it doesn't work on all TVs. I presume that's because if it is outputting 480p, then it's only going to work on those TVs that allow 480p. So if your TV or monitor only allowed maybe 720p or 1080p, that would explain why you get the black screen. Right, okay, so let's turn it on, see what happens. Right, okay, so that's a good sign. I can hear the fan has kicked in. General condition of the Xbox seems to be okay. You know, I've noticed there's a few kind of little scrapes around the back, probably where people have been feeling behind to plug in their HDMI cable, you know, without taking it out and plugging it in. I'm wondering, could it be a fault with the HDMI port? If it's outputting 480p, then it seems, just wondering why it's not coming on. It seems unlikely that, I mean, I'm not sure with the HDMI ports whether they use different pins for different resolutions. I don't think they do, but I could be wrong. Right, let's see if the controller is going to connect up. Hit the sync button. Right, it looks like something's happening now. Well, it did for a second. Right, okay, so that's synced up. Yeah, there we go. Right, it's saying no signal here though, isn't it? Go down to HDMI 2, maybe I've plugged it into the wrong one. Now this TV definitely does 480p and 720p and 1080p. Right, let me just double check that connection at the back. Right, we are plugged into number 1, HDMI 1. Right, okay, nothing's happening. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to do a hard reset. So I'm just going to hold this button down here and then see what happens. Let me just, you shouldn't unplug HDMI cables when they're on. I just want to double check I have gone into the right one, because with this one there's 2 in the back. One for in and one for out. I was in the right one. Right, okay, let's just do a hard reset. So I'm going to hold it down and I'm going to keep my finger on the on and off button. Right, now it's turned off. I'm going to keep holding it. Now from memory I think I have to let go and then hold it down again. Right, okay, well it's definitely powered off now, so I'm going to press it in and hold it in. And I think that should boot it to like a safe mode. No, maybe not. Let's try that again. Well, I have to read up on that. My memory must be wrong. I thought you just had to hold it down when you were turning it back on to put it into a safe mode. Maybe I'm getting mixed up with the PlayStation 4. It's been a while since I've done it. Oh, no disc has been left inside. Right, let me swap out the HDMI cable. I mean, I know that other one works, but let's just see what happens. I've swapped it out now. It's still saying no signal. TV off and back on again. Not coming up because it would come up down here like, you know, 480p. Right, okay, for some reason it's not displaying on this TV, which surprises me. Just going to go into the other port. Okay, I have to try it on another TV. Oh, well, this is certainly going to be an interesting one. Well, I'm just trying to think of what TV I can try it on. I think I'll try it on my 4K TV, see what happens. Right, let me set it up on that and then I'll come back to the video. Right, okay, I've got a 5-metre HDMI cable going over to the Xbox One S now to this 4K TV. Let's see if we have any luck on this one here. No, it's not come out. Right, now this is an awkward one because why would it be working? I mean, you know, the guy did say it doesn't show up on all TVs, but that's 2 TVs it's not showing up on. And both these 2 TVs are capable of doing 480p. Right, okay, let me try a different HDMI port at the back. No, I'm in number 2. Alright, let's go to this one. Oh, here we go. Wow, That is weird, isn't it? That is really weird. Right, okay. Now, why didn't it work in number 1, but it worked in number 2? Let's just go to that and see what's coming up. So it says up the top there, 640 by 480 times 60. Let me just show you that again. 640 by 480 times 60. Right, I'm going to try it again. It's really weird. Well, I'm glad we've got a picture, because otherwise I'd be well and truly stuck. Amazingly, considering it's only 480, it actually looks really good, because normally 480 on a 4K TV looks rubbish, because it's guessing so many pixels that it looks really bad. Let me plug it into HDMI 3, then back into HDMI 1. Remember, hot swapping the cables is never a good idea, but you know, I do it to kind of speed up the videos, but you shouldn't do it because you can cause damage to the ports. So that's the wrong one, isn't it? Oh no, HDMI 3, that's the right one. So it's working on that one, so now let me go back to HDMI 1. Maybe it's because HDR's turned on and it's not liking it. Right, so it definitely doesn't like that one, but yeah, UHD colour. Let's turn the colour off, you know, the HDR off, and let's see if that makes a difference. So we're going to go to Expert Settings, I think it's under. HDMI UHD colour. Let's turn that one off. Off. Now let's see if that works. I'm going to unplug it and plug it in again. Well, isn't that weird? I don't know why. I mean, this is the one that says on it, just says HDMI in 1 STB DVI. HDMI 3 is the ARC one, HDMI 2. That's really weird. I don't understand why that would be the case, because you would think if the HDR is turned off, what difference would it make? That's really weird. Right, okay, I'm going to turn the HDR back on, so when I've got the Xbox set into it, it's still going to do its thing, Xbox One X. Right, okay, well let's just do a little bit of work on it here then. Right, okay, I'm just going to get the controller out, I'm going to go into it and do a few things and see what happens when I change the settings. Yeah, I can definitely tell there now that that picture's not good. If you look in the bottom right hand corner, you can tell it looks kind of pixelated there, it's not nice. We are having trouble finding the resolution that works on your TV. Can you tell us which one your TV uses? If it does not work, the stream will go back for 15 seconds, then come back on. So I've got an option for 720 and 1080. So let's go to 1080. How does this look? Would you like to keep your 1080? Oh, did you see that? It did come up for a few seconds, didn't it? So it tried to do it, but then it was pixelated, which is the same sort of thing that happens when your HDMI cable is at its limit. So I'm wondering if this is a port problem. There you go, now it's reverted back. Right, let me try that 720p. And again, did you see it came up there for a second? How does this look? Okay. But it's going on and off. This is exactly the same thing that happens when your HDMI either doesn't have enough power, or you're at, for example, you know, you've put in a 10 meter cable and a 5 meter cable together. Can you see it's coming in and out? Let me put none of these work and see what happens. Your Xbox One was designed to work on a HD TV with a resolution of 720 or 1080p. If you think this TV should support these resolutions, try again or check with your TV manufacturer. Also make sure the console is connected directly to the TV with a quality HDMI cable and that your connections are solid. It also, this is not up on the screen, but also if you're working on a PS4 and you try to put it via a little HDMI switch, if you don't power that switch, then you will also get problems like that. You can use 640 for 480 for now, but your screens will not look as good. You can change it later in the settings if higher resolutions will not work. Just consider a different TV. Right, okay, this is interesting. So now I've just got to connect it up to the internet. So I'll have to just do that off camera for a few minutes. Okay, so as you can see from that fast forwarded clip, I've been whizzing through loads of different settings on this, but the problem is every time you do a setting that it doesn't like, it won't revert back to 480p, and then you have to force this to start in 480p. Now beforehand, at the beginning of the video, I thought you just had to hold down the power button, but you don't. To force it into 480p, you have to do the power button and the eject button at the same time. So I'm going to manually shut this down by pressing and holding this for up to 10 seconds. So you can see I've still got it held down. Right, okay, so that's shut down now. Now, if I was just to power it back on here, it's going to try to do its last setting, so that might be 720p or 1080p. So what I'm going to have to do is hit the eject button and the power button at the same time. So you're going to hit it once, you're going to hear the beeps, and then you have to wait about 10 seconds until the second beep, and that will force it to start in 480p. So if you watch this, I'm going to hit them both at the same time. Right, so you heard one lot of beeps. I'm still holding it in, both of them, the eject and the power. And then after the second lot of beeps, I'm going to let go. There we go. So I'm going to let go now, and hopefully that should start in 480p. And if you have a look up on the screen there, you can see it is working again. So I'm going to get the tripod back to here, and we're going to do exactly the same now on this TV here, just to see what happens. There's also another thing I want to try as well. Right, okay, so I want to give it one more go here. We are plugged into number 2 at the moment. So that's that one there. So let's unplug this. So this is now at 480p right now. Let's see if it does anything. It's just so strange how it works on HDMI 2 and 3 up on the main TV, but not on HDMI 1. Really weird. Right, okay, so it's still not displaying anything. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to try this cable here. I got this cable because it's like a little upscaler built into it. So the idea is the input resolution is 480p, and then it will kind of, you know, upscale it to 1080p. Obviously it's not going to give you 1080p, but it will, on TVs that don't allow it, it will. So for example, if a TV didn't allow a certain resolution, I'm thinking if you were to use this, then it might allow it. So it's powered. So if there was a power issue, that's why I want to use this, because you plug it into the USB as well. So I think it's going to be an interesting one to try out. Number 1. No. Right, okay, I think I'm going to get a torch, flashlight, and I'm going to look in the HDMI port and see if I can see anything. So I'm going to try and close it down properly by holding this down, going up 1, and then A. Yeah, okay, that should close it down. Right, I'm going to get a torch. Right, okay, let's have a look in the back of this. Just take out the power in case I turn it on accidentally. So I'll have a look myself first, and then I'll show it to the camera. You can see, I don't know, I think I can see a tiny bit of damage, but the pins on the top and the bottom look okay. So let me turn on the macro on this. Right, so I'm on the macro, which is the close-up on my camera. You can see HDMI out to TV, and this is it here. And now just to let you know, because it seems to grate a lot of people, when I say H, I do say H. I know it's not the right way to say it, but that's the way I say it. Funny thing is, if you chat to a lot of people from my area and from my background, so like with Irish parents and stuff, we all say the same thing. So it seems to really wind some people up. So, you know, I do know that it should be H. It's just when you've had your whole life saying... Hold on. When you have your whole life saying H, then it's pretty much impossible to change. And it doesn't really bother me, so it shouldn't really bother anyone else. Right, okay, but you're going to hear it a lot in this video, so just to let you know, if it winds you up that much, you don't have to watch it. Right, let me see if I can see the pins. Yeah, see, look, the pins look okay there on the top. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the pins on the bottom look okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're all there, but where it does look like there's a tiny bit of damage, but I can't see it making any difference, is, God, look at the state of my fingers, is that bit there. In fact, that little bit of skin that's hanging off my fingers is an ideal pointing. I don't have to get any little long nose pliers or anything now, or needles or anything. I can just point with that. But can you see that it looks a little bit, does it look a bit funny there right in the middle? Let's compare it to the other one, because this is going to get used all the time, but this one here is unlikely to be used much. So yeah, does that look to be ever so slightly cleaner or not? Remember, this is one with the HDMI in. Yeah, because you can see there from satellite cable, right? I'm just thinking the actual front part here with the little pins, but those pins don't actually do anything. They're just kind of, as long as the clips at the bottom and the top are okay, the contacts, then it's okay. So actually those front ones wouldn't make a difference, would they? Because it does look like there is slight damage to the front ones, but that shouldn't really affect it. Right, okay. So I don't think it is the port itself. I mean, obviously I could be completely wrong, and it might be something to do with where it meets the circuit board on the inside, but I don't believe that port itself is faulty, because the contacts look okay, unless of course they're dirty, which is possible. But I can always try that with a you know, I can get a Q-tip, or so not Q-tip, that might be a bit big, but I can get something with a bit of alcohol on it and try to remove it, just in case there is a tarnish. Now, just before I do that, I want to make sure that it's not like a HDCP problem, so I'm just going to strip that out of it by using a HDMI splitter, and I'm going to power it as well, so hopefully that might boost that little signal. So let's go with the white one. So it doesn't look to be anything to do with HDCP, because that should have stripped it out. Right, I'm just going to try this one here, just in case there's something wrong with my splitter there. Let's power this from the Xbox itself. Let's try this little switch here. There we go, input there. Output there. Oh, yes, look at that. Excellent. Right, okay, so when I've put it via a little switch there, it has allowed it up there, but obviously the screen's small. I'm just going to swap it to HDMI 2, because I think when I was mucking about with the Nintendo Switch, one of the HDMIs showed a big picture and one showed a small picture, so let's just swap that to 2. Let's just see if it's the same size. Okay, so that's tiny, and it does say there 640 by 480. Isn't that interesting now how it allows it on there? Well, let's go back to the bigger screen. There must be some setting on the TV there I need to change. Right, okay, well that's more than workable. Right, it's easier for me to work on here. because it's just easier to film. Right, okay, let's just quickly muck about with the settings here just to see what happens. Display and sound, video output 640 by 680, sorry, by 480, and that's what corresponds to the TV down there. Let's see what happens if I go to 720. Oh, look at this, look at this. Keep this resolution. Seems to be keeping it. Let's have a look. Aha, 720. It's working here. Right, okay. Let's go to 1080. It's not doing 1080. That's interesting that it showed up 720. I mean, it wasn't on there for very long, so maybe it's going to drop out after a few minutes. And worryingly, it's not coming back with. Oh yeah, it come back up there. So hopefully, right. So it's reverted back to 720. Right, let's work with this for a moment. Right, now that's very interesting to me to know why it allows it when it's going through this. So what I'm going to do is, let's just try and bypass it one more time. So I've got the yellow, the white lead. Let's plug it straight into the TV. Just to see if it was coincidence. Right, okay, so there's definitely nothing happening there. But when I swap that lead for this one, and plug that into here. Let me try a different port this time, put it into number 2. See if it comes up. Yeah, it's going to come up again. Right, okay, so it's working at 720p, and it definitely says here 720p, 60 Hz. So now I'm going to muck around with the settings again, and if I see something, I mean obviously already this is much more usable because you can see now that you know, it is completely playable at 720p, but it's still not doing 1080p. Right, I don't believe it's anything to do with software or anything like that. So I think we're going to have to start by, I'm going to start by cleaning the contacts on that HDMI port. I don't think it's going to do anything, and then I think I'm going to have to open it up to have a look inside to see what's going on. Right, just in case you were wondering about the 4K TV up here, check this out. If I go to OK, you can see there that I'm on the UHD colour and it's 720p. So I've got it into the HDMI 1, remember the one it wasn't working in before. So that little switch has allowed it to work on the big TV up here as well, which is unusual, especially to allow HDR. Right, okay, so it's interesting that 720 now works on here, and it seems to work well. It's not kicking in and kicking out, it doesn't seem to be pixelated, it seems to be just perfect when it's going via that switch over there. Really strange. Right, okay, let's clean that port and see what happens. Okay, so I've got the stuff to clean it now, but let me just tell you what I've been doing. So basically I tested the USB ports just by plugging in the controller with no batteries in, with a micro USB cable, and they all appear to be working. Now I just wanted to make sure that the disk drive was working, so what I did is I put in a DVD and also a Blu-ray, and basically what happens is it comes up with a HDCP error, because with this one here, when it's not plugged into power, it throws up a HDCP error that I can't get around. So basically it doesn't allow you to play the discs. Now when I plug this into, for example, the Xbox One X, it won't work full stop unless I have the power connected to it. When I plug the power in, it works perfectly on the Xbox on DVDs, and sorry, on the Xbox One X on DVDs and Blu-rays. So when I brought it back to here again, whenever I connect it up, it comes up with HDCP error. When I plug this in, it allows me to get through the error, but then what happens is it doesn't display on the TV. So it will only flash up once or twice a minute, but it allows you to get through to, for example, play the menu. So when you unplug it, you will then see the menu screen. You can press play and you can hear it all, but you can't see anything again because of HDCP. The same way as if you try to do it on remote play on the PlayStation. It won't let you do Netflix through remote play. You will hear the audio, but you won't actually see the picture. So then what happens is you can plug this back in, and then the picture will flash up every now and then and work as perfect for like a second or two. But as soon as you unplug this, again the picture disappears. So basically it isn't really an option. I mean, I haven't tried games yet. I'm sure games will probably work fine, but you definitely can't watch DVDs or Blu-rays when it goes via here on this, because as we know, every time we plug the power into it, for some reason the picture goes off the screen, which is really odd, which is really confusing me, because like I said earlier, you would expect when you've added power to it for it to work better. So what I'm going to do is, this is a little bit too big to get a Q-tip in. I've unplugged everything from it and I've got a small little screwdriver, so I'm basically going to be using a cotton wool pad here. I'm going to be covering it in this alcohol here, which is 99.9%. And then we're going to be seeing if any, just in case there's a dirty pin or something in there which is causing all these problems. I'm not very hopeful, but still it's worth a try, and this isn't going to do any harm at all. Right, okay, so plug that in there, and I'm just going to give it a good wipe either side of the HDMI to get the pins on the top and the bottom as well. Okay, there definitely is dirt in there, look. But remember, that could be just dust and stuff. Right, let me get something slightly smaller. There doesn't appear to be any more dirt coming out from it. But then again, it wasn't particularly bad. Okay, so it's not a dirty port, is it? No, okay, so unfortunately it's not going to be an easy fix, but nevertheless, certainly it's probably going to be an interesting one. So what I'm going to do is, I've never taken one of these apart before, so I don't want to just rush into it. I can see that there is a little security sticker at the back here, the back one here, so I presume there's going to be some little screw or something under that. But I'm going to have a look at Tronics Fix, Steve from Tronics Fix, see if he's got any videos on dismantling this, and then that will give me a good idea then of what's involved, rather than me having to spend ages trying to work it out. Somebody else has already done the hard work, so I'm just going to copy what they've done. I know that he's going to have done it correctly, and then it will make life a whole lot easier for me. So that's what I'm going to do now. Right, so it's really late at night here in the UK. It's actually 3:15 in the morning, so it's time to call it a day today. And in the morning I'm going to take this apart and see if I can see anything that could possibly be causing this. Part of me wonders if it could be a hard drive error, whether there's anything on the hard drive that could cause this to happen. Everything's pointing towards the HDMI port, or possibly the chip that feeds the HDMI port, but who knows, it could be a hard drive error as well. Who knows? Right, okay, so I'm going to do a Google search, see if anybody else has had this problem, and also have a look at Steve from Tronics Fix and see how to take this thing apart. And I will see you later on in the morning. Right, okay, it's the next day now, and I've been watching Steve from Tronics Fix take one apart. It's kind of straightforward enough. The bit that looks really hard is trying to pry off this bottom bit from the, from the top casing here. Once I've pried off this, then I'm confident that it will all come apart quite easy. There is this weird sort of security tab here that you need to move over, but I'm wondering whether you have to take the sticker off. Also, I'm not 100% convinced that it hasn't been taken apart before, because to me it just looks a little bit weird, because there's a little white tab in the middle here that when you you kind of lift this over it. So I'm wondering whether it's possible to leave this on when you do it, because already that seems to be, I need to compare it to my one, but that doesn't seem to look too correct. So there is a possibility that this has been apart before. Right, okay, so I'm just going to be fast forwarding through the dismantling, because there's plenty of teardown videos if you do want to watch it, and they're going to go into more detail than me. Now, As I always say in all these videos, please don't copy me, because I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't taken this apart before, so I'm not going to be doing it. It's unlikely I'm going to be doing it the right way, and I might end up breaking some tabs and stuff. So don't criticise me or copy me. You know, this is the first time I'm doing it, and I'm not pretending that I'm any good at it. I'm letting you know in advance that I will probably be doing it wrong. Now, okay, the very fact that that came off so easy there says to me that this has been apart before, because when I watched Steve from Tronics Fix do it, this has definitely been apart before, because when I watched him do it, it was really hard to undo. Right, let's see here. This will be the test here. Unless, of course, they undid that side and didn't do this side because they didn't want to mess with this sticker here. This side's definitely stuck on. Unless the console was dropped. The console could have been dropped with the HDMI. I've been reading up about this HDMI thing, and basically some things that cause it are when it's on and you remove and put in the HDMI, you can short it. Also, if it was to get yanked when it's on, then you can also short it as well. So that can be some of the problems that cause it. It's certainly coming off very, very, very easy. So it's just this corner here. So maybe it hasn't been opened then. Maybe I do have to actually undo the sticker, which would make sense, because why would they put the sticker somewhere where you can, you know, take it off without removing the sticker? There we go. Right, okay. See now, the sticker still is in place. And it doesn't look much different than before, did it? You know, I'm sure it said that beforehand. You know, Microsoft or whatever it says. So I'm wondering whether it has been taken off. I need to have a look at the other one. But either way, you know, it didn't say in the listing that it wasn't taken off. So, you know, who am I to say otherwise? Well, obviously I prefer it when things haven't been taken apart before, because it means you've got more chance of fixing it. Right, okay, so this is a bit, I'm going to fast forward through it now. I believe it's a T9 security bit I need, so a torque 9. Yeah, that feels good. Let me just try torque 10. Right, in my opinion, on my set anyway, the torque 10 fits better, so I'm going to go with the torque 10. So what I want to be looking at is, I want to be looking at the HDMI and seeing if I can find out what's wrong with this. So basically this is the HDMI port here. So yeah, I just want to kind of, I've already had a look at the port itself, and to me it looks to be okay. There is a few things I can check. So I'm going to be honest, the port all looks okay. It doesn't look really bent out of place or anything. Right, let me get the macro on it and see if I can get right in on that chip. Right, okay, so this is the pins at the bottom of the HDMI port. And I mean, what I could do is I could cut a HDMI lead, and then I could go across the wires and see if they correspond to here, and that would give me an idea. You know, using a continuity meter, that would give me an idea if the port is okay. To me, the port does look to be okay, but you know, that would give me an idea about it anyway. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, although the pins look good, I'm just going to get some little pliers, give them each a little press just to see if any of them look loose. Right, okay, well they, you know, appear to be okay. They're connected anyway, and I can't see anything obvious on them. So basically what happens is some of them go off in this direction here to these little, what look like little resistors. Others go down here, and the others go, no, that's it, they all go to here. Right, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right, okay, so maybe not all the pins are in use. They go down here and then they go into this chip here. So, you know, could it be a problem with the chip? Maybe. Not sure how I would test that. Oh, hold on, is that solder there? Is that a bit of solder? No, maybe not. Right, okay, so I'm going to scribble down the number at that chip just to see how much they are. So 75 DP159. And I think what I'm going to do to begin with is I'm just going to get continuity meter and I'm just going to measure. Actually, to begin with, I'm going to measure, for example, between here and here. Or I might go across these parts here just to see if the signal is passing through here. Alright, that's not going anywhere else. I go to the next one. Yeah, it's not going anywhere else. Okay, so that's the ground, that's shorting on other ground things. And it's not going. Oh, hold on. A minute now. 1 second. That's there. But that's also coming up here, isn't it? Right, let's go on to the next one. Yeah, so that's there. That's not going anywhere else apart from the ground. And that's going to there. But also to the ground. Okay, let's see if it's doing it the same on this one here. Actually, let me go the other way round. Right, so the ground is going absolutely everywhere. Should it do that? I don't know. Right, let's go to this one. Yeah. Oh, look, it's not going to the ground there. Interesting. Yeah, nowhere else. Grounds, grounds. Right, let's go into the other grounds on the board. Well, that's interesting. So when I go, hold on. Oh, maybe it's supposed to do it. I mean, the pins themselves are not shorting to anywhere else, it's just the grounds that are shorting. And maybe they're supposed to do that, because they're both doing the same, so if it was faulty, unless it's the chip that's causing it to do that. I'm just going to go through that again. I'll fast forward through this so you don't have to keep watching it. Right, so when I use, for example, the grounds here, this is what I'm using for grounds. I'm just pressing that against there. Then when I go to here, I've got, let's say go this side. Shorten to ground, ground, no ground, no ground, no ground, 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 ground. So it's like the opposites. So this track here and this track here are shortened to ground, but these ones are not. Isn't that weird? So the outer two tracks are going to ground. Right, where do they go to now? The outer two tracks are going to ground. So, could it be the chip that's causing that to happen? Is it supposed to happen, I wonder? So let's just pick our ground again. Yeah, and then... hold on, now everything's going to ground. Well, let's go on to the actual one itself. What on earth's happening on? I'm doing exactly the same as I was a minute ago, and now it's not grounding. Right, okay, so if I was to put something to ground, so for example, if I get my lead, and if I just press hard against here, because this is a ground, then other things that are ground on the board will obviously make the continuity meter beep. So for example now, if you have a look there, can you see there? Or if I was to go onto one of the other HDMI ports, on the outside of it, then you can hear that. Now when I go to the actual chip, let's call it the suspect chip. Now if I go across it all, every part of it is ground. Go the other side. And this side. Okay, but then if I swap the leads over, so that was like my positive lead, the red lead, onto ground. If I was to put the negative lead to ground and then use the red probe, again if I go across the other grounds on the board, you can hear that it's shorting. I know you can't see it, but you can hear it. But now when I go across it, now remember the middle two pins here, they were not shorting out, but the outside ones were. No? I mean, I don't know if that signifies anything, but on that HDMI, see there's nothing there. Hold on, is there anything short in here? Sorry, my hands are in the way. Hold on. See if I can just drag it across here. Yeah, so it looks like, hold on, let's have a think about this now. I suppose I need to find out where the trace is, where it's feeding from. So it looks like they're all going back to, hold on. I can't really tell. Let me just move this a minute. Well, if I'm honest, I can't actually tell where it goes to. So, if I was to look at the one next to it, where am I now? If I was to look at the HDMI port next to it, then it all goes down here. You can clearly see the traces going all the way down to this big chip. Hold on, still going here, into this big chip here. But let me zoom out. But when it comes to, so there I can see that they're going to like the input HDMI, if you want to connect up a cable or satellite box. But this one here, it just seems to end here. I can't go anywhere. And I've since learned that apparently circuit boards can have multiple layers. I thought, years ago it was just all on one layer, and now they're on double layers. But I didn't know there could be traces sandwiched in between as well. So there can actually be multiple layers. I mean, I'm not sure if that's the case in here or not. But so sometimes you can't see the traces. Apparently, remember, I don't know this stuff. It's just what other viewers and stuff have been telling me. So obviously, it's getting harder and harder to do stuff. But that's just probably because I'm behind the times. If you were up to date from years ago to now, it would all make sense to you. Right? Okay. So I find it a lot easier to look at old circuit boards because I can physically see the traces. Right. I don't know, something doesn't look right to me because on some of the traces here they go into ground and on other traces they're not. Maybe they're supposed to. I could take apart my Xbox One S to see if it's the same on that, and then that would give me an idea. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a bit of research on YouTube because I can't really see anything wrong with this. I can't see anything wrong with anything. It'd be different if this was all mashed up here, but it doesn't look to be. I could try, do you know what, maybe I will try chopping a HDMI lead and actually saying that, I tell you what I have got a wireable HDMI lead, in which case then I could just put the male part in here and then go across the screw connections and onto here. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can find that now, and it will save me sacrificing a HDMI lead. Right, I found it. I got this to repair a cable ages ago and I never actually got round to it. So it's a HDMI port that you can, it's wireable, so you can actually fix your own. Now I'm not sure if it's going to work on something like 4K, but it's definitely going to work just now for continuity. Can you see there all the different pins here? All the different pins correspond to, the screw connections correspond to there. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Or I could just use the bottom here, whatever. It actually seems quite nicely made. Right, so I'm going to zoom in again. So I'm just going to do each of these up using a little flathead screwdriver and make sure, because it's going to be easier for me because it's facing this way to use the screw terminals on the top. But obviously unless they're screwed down, it's not going to make the contact. You can always double check it anyway by just going from top to bottom on each of them. I think this would be quite a good way of testing out the HDMI ports to see if they're working or not. A nice easy way of doing it rather than stripping back a cable. Now obviously a lot of these are going to be shorting out anyway because they're shorting out here on the board, so if they're shorting out here they're going to be shorting out through the HDMI ports. Right, okay, so I'm just going to whiz through this now. Right, okay, so yes it does work, but the problem is loads of them are short. So for example, if I was to go on, let's say number 2 here, then you can hear it's like coming up everywhere. But if I was to go to number, let's say 5 here, then you can hear, okay, that's coming up everywhere. Let's try number, this one here. Right, okay, so now you can hear it's not coming up anywhere apart from pin 6. So some of them you can test. There you go. You can hear it's only coming up in one place. Right, so there's definitely continuity, but it doesn't really mean much because it's shorting out. The only proper way to do it would be to unsolder it and then check for continuity from there to here. But because it's shorting out here, then it looks like there's continuity on, you know, all the pins, because there might only be, I'm just trying to think now, if there was a problem, yeah, it wouldn't matter. Let's say now if there was a problem in here with pins like 2 and 3, because they're shorted together anyway, then they're just all going to be, they're all going to be, is that right? If there was a problem here at 2 and 3, when you go on here, just trying to think now, if they were shorted here, yeah, they would. So for example, let's say if there was a problem with 2 where there was no continuity between here and here, because down here, let's say 2 and 3 and 4 are shorted together, then what will happen is when you go across here, it's still going to bring it up as a short because it's shorting via 3 and 4. Is that correct? I'm just trying to think. They're all single up to here and then they're joined together here. Yeah, so it would be, wouldn't it? If they're shorting in here, if there was a problem in here, it's still going to have continuity here. So it doesn't really prove much in my opinion. Right, okay, so I'm going to do some searches on Google because there's not really much I can do with this now. I can't see anything that's obvious with it. I still don't know why when you connect a switch to it that it allows it in 720p, but yet it doesn't allow it in 720p without it. That's a little bit confusing to me as well. It's like it regenerates the signal and then suddenly allows it. So it says to me, I think it's pointing towards this chip here, but you know, I don't know. I'm only saying that because the traces of this HDMI go to here. Possibly it could be something that's before this chip that's causing it to go faulty. But what I'm going to do is, this could be a common problem, so I'm going to look on Google, and then I'm going to look on YouTube and stuff and see if there's anybody else having the same problem. If there's already loads of people talking about it, what's the point of me spending hours on here when I can just do a bit of research online and it might come up with the answer for me. So I'm going to come back to this video later on. Right, okay, interesting. Just like always, it's never going to be an easy fix when you get something gaming related on eBay, because I think the majority of the stuff has been kind of well looked at, because obviously they're worth money, and then, you know, people are not just going to give them away cheaply, so they've done their research beforehand. I think possibly this could have been opened up before, but yeah, it's not an easy fix, but it does look like it is fixable. So it is a problem. There's not a huge amount of information about it, but there is enough information for me to think that it is this chip here that's faulty that I mentioned before. If you look at this video here, this is by Andrew Paul. Now, that was he's already helped me out before on the video on my Xbox One, where I had to do the hard drive, and he did an amazing video, step by step, you know, call it for dummies, everything. It was meticulous, everything was in it. And again, this video here is fantastic. So if you look up, I've just put Xbox One S black screen, and he's put it here. For this sort of style, let's put the S. Right, Xbox One S black screen, how to replace a failed HDMI retimer IC. And basically, if you look at that video there, it's kind of what I was, you know, what I was talking about. So it was like pixelating. He's done a couple of videos on it actually, and one of them shows it working in 480p, and it shows it struggling with 720p, and I think not at all on 1080p. I think that I've got exactly the same issue as this guy here. Luckily, he's completely explained how to do it, but just because he's explained how to do it, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to do it. So basically, what you have to do is use flux, then you have to remove the chip, then you need to use flux again to make the remaining solder nice and smooth, so there's no jaggeds, you know, these little mountains and stuff on it. And then you have to tack the chip to the board, and then you use flux and then reflow it, and then just at the end you hold it down while heating it up to make sure it's made a good contact with it. So this is basically called a QFN package. I think that stands for quad flats QFN, quad flats no legs or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Now, I have ordered up a couple of them because, well, they were a bit more expensive than I thought they would be, but I've ordered up two, so if I muck up one, there's a chance that I might be able to get it on the second one. Or if I do it successfully, I'm going to give it a go, and if I do it successfully, then I've got a spare one. So basically, the only thing that was confusing me was this is the thing that I need to get. It's a 75 DP159, which corresponds to the numbering on this one here, which is useful. There you go, 75DP159. And this is the bit that was confusing me. I did see them for as cheap as £5 or £6, but they were down as 40 WQFN. So you know I said about quad, flat, no legs or whatever? They were only £5 or £6, but then the ones that were listed as Xbox One S were 40 VQFN, excuse my writing, and they were expensive. Now, maybe they're exactly the same. Maybe there's just a slight size difference in height or something. But for some reason, even if I look at AliExpress, the proper ones that say VQFN, even AliExpress, I think they wanted like $8 or $9 or something like that plus delivery. So basically, I bought one of them for £13 and a penny, and I bought another one for £12.51 off eBay from the same seller. Now he has listed it as the Xbox One S chip, so I know I'm definitely getting the right one, and it is down as VQFN. I'm thinking I might have just been overcharged, because when you don't know what you're doing, often you do get ripped off. It could be exactly the same chip as this one, but I don't know what V and W mean, so I'm going to have to go with the one that lists it as an Xbox, just in case it's different. Now, I've had a quick look on, well, I said quick look, I was looking online, but remember, I'm new to all this, so it's completely confusing. But basically, it did look like the pinouts were different on another Texas Instrument, TI, Texas Instrument chip. that was called V and W. So even though they look to be the same size, the pinouts were different. So for example, pin 1 would do something on one chip, and pin 1 on the other chip would do something completely different. They were all moved along one. So for example, pin 2 on this chip would do the same as pin 1 on there. So obviously that's no good. So I could have been ripped off on this prices. Well, not ripped off, you know, it's up to the seller what he sells them for. I was the one that chose to buy it. Maybe I was paying, for example, double the price purely because he had Xbox One S in the title. But because I don't know the difference, I had to go for the more expensive one. So when this guy did it here, this Andrew Paul, you really must check out the videos. They're really very good. He had his hot air gun at 490 and airflow at 100 litres airflow per minute. I'm not sure what that means on my particular reflow station, so I need to know what 100 litres means, because I think I've just got a scale for mine for like 1 to 5 or something like that, maybe 1 to 8, I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so that's it. So I'm going to wait until it comes through, and then if I can get this fixed for whatever it was, £12.51 or £13.01, then I will be happy with it. When he does it, he makes it look quite easy, but he's like, you know, a professional. I don't know what he does. I don't know if it's the only thing he does for a living, but you know, when he does it, he makes it look easy. But you can see by the size of it, that's never going to be easy for someone like me to do. But I think it's worth a go. Slightly apprehensive because I can get this working in 720p with that HDMI switch, so it would be a shame to junk it completely. But you know, as long as I don't damage all the pads and everything, do you know, I'm going to give it a go because I'm going to be quite confident. If not, then what I'll have to do is I'll have to use it for spares, use it for experience. Maybe as I get better, I'll be able to use the RAM or some other things on it. I don't know what else could go faulty on the Xbox One S, but I think for me, it's worth the risk. And as well, for the video, it's going to make it a lot more interesting if I can get this working, rather than just saying, oh yeah, I think it's this chip and I can't do it. So for the purpose of the video, I think it's worth me spending money and taking the risk on this to see if I can fix it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait until this arrives now. I've ordered it already, and when it comes through, I'm going to give it a go and we'll see what happens. So I will see you in a few seconds as far as the video is concerned, but it's going to be later in the week. Okay, so quite a few days have passed since, and the little chips have arrived. So I'm ready to try and solder them in. This is going to be interesting to see how it goes. Here they are. Right, okay. So I've got 2 of them, just in case I muck up the first one, because remember, I'm very, very new to this, and these chips, in my opinion, do not look easy to do. If they had legs and stuff sticking out, they would be a lot easier. But, you know, I've watched the very good video that I told you online about earlier, and on that it looks really easy, because obviously the guy is really used to doing it, and he's a bit of a professional when it comes to these things. I, however, am not. So, I really hope this works. So that's it. I'm going to be taking one of these chips out, and I'm going to be taking out the old one and putting in the new one and see what happens. So let me get set up. Right, okay, so I'm ready to go. I've got the chip here, which I'm going to take out of this packaging in a bit. I've just had a look at it, and the top item number is the same, 75DP159. The bottom 2 lines have different numbers, but I'm assuming that they're just kind of like I don't know, maybe manufacturing code or something like that. I'm not too sure. Right, okay, so I've going to get this set up to. I'm going to go as hot as this thing goes. I've got quite a cheap rework station, so I'm going to go at 480. And I believe when Andrew Paul did it, he had it at 100, I think it was 100 litres of airflow per minute. Now mine's just got a scale of 1 to 8, but in the instructions it says 120, so I'm presuming that's the max. So I'm going to go, let's have a look now, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, so it's about 15 each, is it? It's 8 times 15, 8 times 15 is 120, isn't it? So I'm going to go at about 6 3/4. Right, so what he did is he added flux, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to soak it in flux. And I've already forgotten to tape off all the other components. He didn't do that, but I'm going to have to do that. Right, okay, bear with me. Right, I've got some of this heat tape, you know, the Captain tape. So I'm going to tape off everything in the surrounding area so I don't blow off any of the little resistors and capacitors and stuff that's near it. Right, okay, that's what the tape looks like. It's really cheap, but everyone said it's really good. Right, now I'm going to put flux on it. That says loads of flux there. So now it's time to give it a go. Now I'm not going to be talking throughout it because I really need to concentrate. I am not confident at doing this at all. I forgot to turn the fan on. Right, okay, really happy with that. And that's the chip that came off it. So that came off nice and clean. So now I'm going to use flux to resolder this bit here now, just to, you know, smooth it out a little bit. And I'm going to get my chip out as well. Now I've made a note of where it goes. There's a little dot here, so I need to line up the dot with that dot there. That would be pin 1. Now I'm hoping there's enough solder on the pads here just to put the chip down on it, but it is a new chip I'm using. So the new chip won't have any solder on it. I'm hoping that's going to be tacked to the board now, so I can add some flux, and then I'm hoping that it will align itself as capillary action, I believe it's called. So I need to put a bit more tape on it because some of these resistors are, or capacitors, whatever they are exposed. I've just knocked the chip straight off. Right, okay. I thought it would have held when I was heating up the board, but obviously not. Right, okay, not a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add flux to it and then pop it on the board. When I was trying to reflow the solder there, it mustn't have reflowed. I'm going to add loads of flux. Now I'm not sure whether I should be adding a little bit of solder to the chip because it's a brand new chip, but I'm hoping it's going to be okay. So I'm making sure the dot is in the right place and I'm going to align it the best I can. That looks pretty good. Right, I'm going to go with that and see what happens. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Right, here we go. It's just blown away from me. I'm going to have to hold it down with the tweezers. Oh dearie me, it's sliding everywhere. Do you know what, I'm worried now that I've all the blowing around that I might not have got the top corner in the right place. I don't believe this. I don't believe it. Oh God. I've taken the markings off the top. I should have just left it. I can't tell from the bottom which direction it's the way round, which way round it is. And because I've added a bit of heat to it, the top's completely melted off, so I can't see any markings. Right, let me get some alcohol, clean it. Oh, it's really going against me. Yes, yes, I can see it again. Brilliant. Oh, I was worried that I just wasted the chip there. Right, okay, I can definitely see it again. So let me just make sure it's in the right orientation. Right, so it's going to be that way round. Okay, right, add more flux. Oh, I'm so happy with that. I thought I just wasted the chip. I think in the video that Andrew Paul used sticky flux, and I can see why now. I know it probably will pull itself in, but only if it's close. Right, I think I can see the solder starting to melt. I made such a mess of this. Right, okay. Well, I mean, the solder was definitely melting and moving around the place. So I'll let it cool and see what's happening. Not sure, maybe there's not enough solder on it. I was hoping it would kind of, as I heat it up, it would kind of like bring it into its place. See, I don't want to leave the heat on there for too long, because then I might burn out the chip. Right, okay, I'm going to let it cool and then give it a go. I can always heat it up more. I can always put more flux on and heat it up. But once it's cooled, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some alcohol and give it a clean up around here. And then also I'll have to zoom right in and just to see if we've got any bridges on the solder. It's stuck. Let me give it a clean up and then we'll zoom in. Right, okay, this is it here. Let me turn the fan off. Alright, let's have a look now. See if we can see. Turn it around to get the other side. Well, I mean, I think it looks okay. I suppose the worrying thing is there's a huge pad of solder right in the middle, you know, if you look at the old chip, and that solder's got to have melted onto the middle pad, so I suppose that's why you need so much heat. But I mean, I think it looks okay. Put it down in the comments what you what you reckon, but yeah, I think I'm happy with that. But we're not going to know until we put it onto the TV and see if it's still displaying in 480p. Maybe now it won't be displaying anything at all. We'll have to have a look. Yeah, and you can see the dot there corresponds to the dot here. Right, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to put it back in and test it. I'm going to leave the bottom off it because it's a bit of a pain to get on and off, so I want to test it now. So I'm going to bring it into the other room and test it on the little TV. Oh, right, okay, the moment of truth. So nervous. What I've been thinking is, just to tell you my thoughts beforehand, you know, when I was heating it up and moving it around the place, sometimes it moved quite a bit. It'd be different if it was only moving like that much, but sometimes it moved about that much, didn't it? And I'm thinking that the solder, which was wet underneath, might have dragged. So although I didn't see any like bridges on the outside, I'm thinking there might have been bridges on the inside between the massive ground pad in the middle and then the pins on the outside. But you know, I might be lucky, I don't know. So I'm turning it on at the wall now. I'm going to turn on the TV first of all. Right, okay, wait until the TV comes on and we'll see whether it turns on or whether it just pops straight off. It might not even turn on now. I really don't know if this is going to work or not. Right, we're on HDMI 1, that is the one I'm plugged into. So here we go. Excellent. Okay, that's good, it hasn't turned off yet. 720p without 720p without the what's it called? The HDMI selector thing. Right, let's see if this is going to sync up. Hit the sync button there. Am I going to be able to get to the sync button? Yeah. Come on, sync up. Yes, it's synced up. Right, okay, we're definitely in 720p. Right, let's change it to 1080p. This is looking good. This is looking good. Display and sound, video output. Come on, 1080p, come on. Yes! Yes! I've changed a chip and it's worked. I've soldered something and at long last it's worked. Oh, you don't know how good that feels. I haven't had a lot of success when it comes to soldering chips and stuff. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Oh, I can't believe that. Honestly, I am so happy. Right, okay, that's it. Do you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to connect it up to my 4K TV and see if it does 4K. So just to show you, let me zoom in. Oh, this is so good. So sad, isn't it? But I'm so happy with this. Look, 1080p, 60 Hertz. Do that again. 1080p at 60 Hertz. Excellent. Right, okay, I'm going to get the longer HDMI cable and I'm going to connect it up to the 4K TV and see what happens. Now, I don't want to blow this again, so whenever you're changing out the HDMI cables, normally I just do it when it's on, which is the wrong way to do it, but you know, for the speed in the videos. But because I've changed the chip here, I really don't want to go through it again, so I'm going to shut down and I'm then going to connect it up to the 4K TV and see if it recognises it there. Right, okay, I've got a long 5-metre HDMI cable. The cable's quite cheap, so I'm not 100% sure whether this one is going to work with 4K or not, but let's give it a go. So, display and sound, 4K, see what happens. Yep, got it. Right, let me just double check the TV is on HDR. And it's on, okay. So we should have, exit that, let's have a look, 4K TV details. Yeah, look at that across the board, green ticks. TV supports it, blah 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 blah. So it is working even on 4K. Right, let me just see what the TV's saying up here. There you go. Can you see there? 3840, 2160 at 60p, and it also says UHD colours. That's this TV's version of HDR. Honestly, you don't know how happy I am. I'm so pleased with that. So I'm going to put the base back on it, and then I'm going to pop in a 4K Blu-ray just to make sure it's playing them as well. Right, okay, so that's the base back on it now. It looks absolutely perfect. I gave this a good clean the other day as well after I did the, you know, when I was waiting for the chips to arrive at the end of the previous video. And I went in all here. I actually, you know, completely cleaned every single part of it. So it's looking absolutely immaculate. Right, okay, let's plug it in and see if the 4K Blu-ray's working. See, 4K Ultra HD. There it is. Right, okay. Fantastic, so that's working.
Over the role of vigilantism in American crime. How about that Spider-Man? Last night on Manhattan Bridge, he saved a dozen lives. We want to hear your call.
Right, okay, that is it. Job done. So pleased with the result there. I was a little bit, well, I was very apprehensive about changing that chip over, but it worked. So all those problems were all to do with this little chip here. So, you know, that's really raised my confidence now, because that's a tiny chip where the legs are not even on display. So if that was successful, that's going to make me a lot more confident now to try to do repairs like that again in the future. So I wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for Andrew Paul, so a massive thanks to him. I'm going to put the video that I watched down in the description, so if you want to check that out you can do, and then you will see how to solder properly, not like what I did earlier when the chip was moving halfway around the board. Also a massive thanks to Steve from Tronics Fix for the teardown. So again, I will put that video down in the description. So thanks so much for watching this. Please subscribe for more trying to fix videos. I've got a whole series. I'm going to continue to do these videos because I love doing them. Earlier on today I was trying to fix a mechanical watch, an Amiga watch. So it's not just going to be gaming related, it can be anything. Toys, anything. In the future it could be anything. I'd really like to get a classic car in the future and maybe do that with my brother. But it's just the space, you know, the space to do that somewhere. I haven't got any space. But I would love to do something like that. So, you know, please continue to watch my channel. I really appreciate it. And also please subscribe for how-to videos as well. I haven't forgotten about them. I will still be doing them as well. So thanks so much. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And that is it. Take care. Bye now.